Hey, good morning, everybody, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending on when it is that you're watching this. This is a video to go for class, I guess, two or three, depends on the order that I do it, in the Healthy Relationships mini unit. It's about 2 pages. It technically is a bridge between our violence and violence prevention unit mini unit and the sexual health unit. And we're talking about relationships. And this is class 2. We're talking specifically yesterday and today about the qualities of healthy relationships. It might be class 3, depending on what school year this is. It's being recorded on November the 5th, 2020. So in case you're watching this in the future, you can see what it specifically is for. Sorry about that camera change real quick. And it's going to be considerably less dramatic than if I was in the class doing it for you. If I was in the class for you doing this live and I could use body language and mannerisms, there would be a lot of different things that I would be doing. But right now, I'm just kind of keeping it simple. So starting us off, while I share my screen, pause the video if you don't have enough time to do this now. But yesterday, you were supposed to build the perfect partner. You were supposed to go and use a handout that's on the Qualities of Healthy Relationships webpage. And you were supposed to go through all of the qualities and all of the different things that you wanted in the perfect partner, whether that be a significant other, or whether that be in an intimate relationship, or whether that be like a best friend. But the perfect partner, you're building the perfect partner. And at the end of that day, we said basically that you can't build the perfect partner. It's impossible, but you can build the perfect partner for you. I told you to go through the list again and then mark down your non-negotiables, the traits that you would not live without no matter what, that you wouldn't settle. I also gave you a bunch of questions to ask yourself. So at this moment in time, we're going to sort of do the same thing, but we're going to change it up a little bit. I want you all to pause the video and on a piece of paper, draw yourself a house. How long you have to draw the house, I don't know. Pause it for like 2 minutes or so, but you're going to draw a house. And along with drawing the house, I want you to someplace on the paper, write yourself two qualities, two specific qualities that you want in a partner. And these should be like simple one-word things. So one example might be honesty. Okay, I'll give you a possible answer. So check that out. While you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen. So if you are not pausing it, then you're seeing me share my screen. And if you did pause it and you came back, welcome back. So this is all stuff on the Qualities of Healthy Relationships page. Here are some articles again, in case you didn't watch yesterday's video. Here are a few videos, 10 signs you're in a healthy relationship, 12 signs you're in a healthy relationship, and 12 signs you're in a healthy relationship from 3 different places, Think, Bestie, and Psych to Go. And then, of course, the perfect partner activity with your copy right here, as we were speaking about. And then the questions to consider, which are right here. Some graphics that you can look at that I shared in yesterday's video. Okay, that said, I told you all to draw a house. How many of you drew a house that was one-dimensional, had an apex roof, 2 windows up at the sides like this, probably with a divided into 4 window panes with some sort of cross, a door right in the middle? It might have a doorknob on the right-hand side of the door, a chimney on the left-hand side of the roof with smoke. Oh, no, wait, if you're looking at it, it would be the right-hand side of the roof with smoke coming out of it. And also a tree, probably to the left of the house. How many of you drew that? 75% of the people that are asked that question, according to an article I found years and years and years ago, will draw a similar house to what I just said. And if you drew something with more details, it means that you think little tiny things are more important to you. And if you drew something that was different, so like maybe a 3D house or something like that, then that just means you're more complex. It means that you're more complex in thinking this. If you do something totally different, then it's a higher order thinking skill. And you know, not that many people kind of do that, but it also means that you have deep thinking, that you really are into things and logical. So for example, maybe you drew a road going from your front door and a driveway, but you put bricks in the wall. You didn't just make it a simple road. Like, I don't know, the specific details, totally different. A relationship is the same. A relationship is like a house. We all sort of, oh, before I go there, how many people drew the house that you actually live in? Most of you probably didn't. So a relationship is like a house. And this comes from a theory that I developed over my many years of teaching. And I say that a relationship is like a house. And we all sort of know what a house looks like, but every single house is different. And it's the same thing with a relationship. We kind of know what we want. We kind of know what a relationship should look like, but everyone is going to be specifically different. And even if you have a long-term committed relationship right now, and for some reason that doesn't end up working out, and some of you are like real sad right now, like, oh, it won't work out. Yeah, it might not work out. So, you know, later in life, you get another long-term committed relationship. You're in this second relationship. It's not going to be the same. You can't copy and mimic your first one. Every relationship is different. Just like every house is slightly different, every relationship is different. So, and somebody always gets into the focus on the house. They're like, well, what about the cookie cutter houses? Like you go to a development and they all look exactly the same. Or you go on a street and row homes are all exactly the same. Look closer. There's differences. They might be really subtle. It might just be coloring. It might be shapes. It might be sizes. It might be landscaping. It might be, I don't know, but every house is slightly different. It might be the paint of the steps. It might be the quality of the texture. I mean, every relationship is different. You can't have two houses exactly the same. It's just not possible for that to happen. You can get them close to exactly the same. And for that matter, if the outside looks the same and then you go and walk on the inside, now they look really different. So that's a kind of symbolic representation of what we're talking about. So my theory is that there's 7 things that are needed for any relationship to succeed, not just a relationship, but any relationship to succeed, no matter what kind of relationship that it is. And that theory is oftentimes challenged, but never able to be rebuked. It's very difficult for anybody to say that these 7 words are not needed, these 7 specific things, so to speak. And they're placed in specific places. Honesty, communication, and friendship are placed to be the foundation. Trust and loyalty are the walls. Love and respect are the roofs. And if we were in class, I would ask you to call out one of your characteristics that you made when you drew your house. And then if you said any of these 7 things, I would ask you where you thought you'd place it. And then we would place it on this graphic organizer together on the wall, and we would be able to go through it. But since we're not in class together, we're just sort of, here's where they go. And I'm just sort of telling you. So look at your words that you wrote. Did you write any of these words? And if you didn't write any of these words, that's okay. It doesn't mean that they don't belong in your house. It just means that they're not 7 things that I think all relationships need to be able to succeed. And I mean all relationships. I don't just mean one. So let's go and break these down a little bit better. So I'm going to come back and forth to the house from time to time. So for the time being, I'm going to put it in a new tab in case I need to come back to it. It's going to be a little bit smaller in this new tab. Actually, I'll make it bigger. All right, so here it is in my new tab. And now let's go down and talk about the foundation: communication, honesty, and friendship. All right, so communication, the definition is to give and receive information. And there's lots of examples that I give to this in class, but like I said, we're sort of just kind of just going to go with the flow today and make it less dramatic and things. But the one thing I want to remind you of is it's to give and receive information. It's not just you talking to somebody and then saying, okay, well, I told you, right? No, they have to understand. They have to listen. They have to be able to listen both verbally and non-verbally. They have to be able to understand what you're saying. They have to be able to understand what you mean. And there's active communication and active listening, and there's passive communication, passive listening. Passive listening is you're just sitting there listening. Active is you're asking questions like, okay, well, what do you mean? And how do you, you're not interrupting, but you're trying to clarify. And so are you saying, like, paraphrasing and things like that? And one of the biggest problems in relationships is that there's no communication there to begin with. That doesn't even go into account communication preferences on who likes to stay quiet versus who likes to speak. When we were talking about true color personalities earlier in this year, I was talking about a person who's intrapersonally intelligent and interpersonally intelligent. And then we were talking about blue versus green people and things like that. And it kind of matched with Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. But when we were looking at Don Larry's true colors personality types, we were mentioning how oftentimes your personalities conflict when it comes to communication. And I gave an example of my wife and I when we're both upset. If I'm upset, I want to be left alone and think through it and give me a minute, give me some space. She wants to talk about it right away. So if we're in a conflict together, she wants to deal with it right then, and I wanted her to leave me alone, or I keep getting more emotionally involved and more angry. When she's upset with me, I want to give her space, and that's not what she wants. She wants to deal with it right then. Along with that, when we're dealing with something else, like if something else bad happens in one of our lives and it doesn't affect both of us, my automatic grief mindset is, okay, she needs to be left alone. Let her know that I'm there, but then give her time to process. When she wants me to be right there with her, holding her hand and being right involved, her reaction to me is the opposite. I want to be left alone to process it, and she wants to be right there holding my hand. So we have to understand not only how to communicate, but your partner's communication methods as well. One more thing I like to say, and I usually tell some stories about my daughter and her friends and having to communicate, but then communicating in silence, you know. And if you are in my class, you can ask me that example and I'll be more clear about that. But one of the things I always say is if we were meant to talk more than we were meant to listen, we would have two mouths and only one ear. And even though that's cliche, it is true. We should meet and listen more. All right. So some things about communication down here. In a relationship, when communication starts to fade, everything else follows. So that's why I put it in the center right here. And it's really super important. Friendship. Winston Churchill once said, a friend is someone who walks in when someone else walks out. And I tend to tell a story about this woman from Wawa named Nancy, and it's a really intricate story, but I'm just going to tell you the short version. Nancy always had this script. She didn't really communicate that well. And I didn't even know that she recognized who I was. And I used to go in and get breakfast sandwiches every day. But one day I went in, there was no breakfast sandwiches left. I go up to the counter, and Nancy had pulled aside one of my breakfast sandwiches. That's a relationship. It's with the clerk with Wawa. She's really just an acquaintance. She's not part of my family. I wouldn't even call her a friend. It's just someone who recognizes you because you come in contact with them sometimes. But in that brief moment, that was an act of friendship where she saved a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel for me. This was years ago, but an act of friendship. So you can have an act of friendship without being friends with somebody. A lot of you have issues with your relationships, especially when it comes with your parents, because you sort of want them to be on your side and be your friend when in reality, they're your authority figure. When you get older, your parents can become your friends. That doesn't mean there's not an element of friendship there, because it helps to build the foundation, but it's not the same thing. So the quote down here about friends is, like I said, with Winston Churchill, a real friend is one who walks in when the rest of the world walks out. And then there's honesty. A single lie discovered is enough to create doubt in every truth expressed. There's a bunch of other graphics I tend to show in class when we're talking about honesty. And I also go through this long thing that usually makes people laugh, but we're squeezing a 2-day lesson into one 20-ish minute video today. So basically, you can't lie because you're going to get caught. And there's lots of different ways you're going to get caught. but you're going to end up getting caught. And it might not be today, but it'll be someday. And when you get caught lying, that brings basically a sledgehammer to the trust wall, and it breaks it down. And it's really hard to build it back up. And with trust, I'm one of those people that I have like another wall built up prior to my house that somebody has to get through or get over. No, scratch the wall. I have like a moat that I dug out around around the house with like man-eating piranhas and alligators and sharks with razor sharp teeth that you have to swim through and get through, and then you have to go through another wall before you get to my house. So I have a problem with trusting people, or I really did have a problem. I'm better at it now, but I had a problem trusting people because I really don't think that people are loyal. So my two walls have a hard time getting built. So going back to the wall section, the walls are trust and loyalty. Also, if you go to the webpage, there are some, there's a little thing about why are the words placed where they are for the foundation, and a special note on the need for relationships and healthy social interactions and how we often are fought at ruining them due to creating a weak foundation. So, you know, there's a little note about that. You can go and read it. But the short version I want to share with you with that is that with a foundation, we basically, we want to build it on cement. We want to build it on concrete. We want to build it on rock. We don't want to build it on dirt or sand or mud. We want to build a solid foundation. When you build a skyscraper, they dig a gigantic hole and fill it with all kinds of cement to be able to put the support beams in of the skyscraper. Even with a small house, they build a whole house. They don't build just a tent. So your foundation needs to be solid. It needs to be strong. Along with that, the walls need to be bricks. And I always use the three little pigs analogy. They shouldn't be straw. They shouldn't be sticks. They shouldn't be flaps that are going to let the wind and rain and snow in. They should, or that the big bad wolf's going to come down and blow down. And I usually talk about it symbolically and say something like, we all have big bad wolves in our lives. And you know, so here are the things about trust and loyalty, the quotes. Relationships are about trust. If you have to play detective, then it's time to move on. Trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. Trusting you is my decision. Proving me right is your choice. A relationship without trust is like a car without gas. You can stay in it all you want, but it won't go anywhere. Cheating is a choice, not a mistake. Loyalty is a responsibility, not a choice. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. So with trust, we already talked about jealousy. Trust with honesty and communication together. If you look at the house, trust with honesty and communication together gives you security. It gives you safety. And that's important to be able to understand. With loyalty, loyalty with friendship and communication, it gives you empathy. Loyalty together with friendship and communication, it gives you empathy. So if you want to write security off to the side here, and you want to write loyalty off to the side here, so I'll just like put little lines, you know, maybe loyalty is here. Security is there, and maybe you go and you write empathy there, then that's some things that for your house, you might want to go and add them on. But those are two important traits that will help you in that. The question comes to loyalty: when do you keep secrets versus whether you tell? And I would say when somebody's safety is in jeopardy, then you should be more loyal to your friend by telling the secret than you would be by keeping the secret. And then we get to the roof. It's love and respect. We put them side by side. They're pretty much synonyms. In a future class, we're going to look at the difference between love, infatuation, and obsession, and how a lot of people confuse love with infatuation. And there's also a lot of times where people confuse love with sex. The Beatles, all you need is love. In my theory, you need to get trust, loyalty, communication, honesty, and friendship before you can get to love and respect. But how many people try putting on the roof before they go and put the walls up, or before they build a solid foundation? A lot of you are setting up this tent right on the ground, It's just a tent on the dirt. And guess what? When the storms come, it's going to get you wet and you're not building it up. A lot of you try to put the roof on before you put the walls on and things like that. So some graphics: love is a serious mental illness. Love is giving someone the power to destroy you, but trusting them not to. Uh, I realize that this is gender normal and heteronormal, but I really like this quote. A gentleman doesn't just tell her that he loves her, he also gives her no reason to doubt it. You can put that the other way too, but it's specifically, I got this from a men's health website. So respect for ourselves guides our morals, respect for others guides our manners, and then respect to people, show respect to people even when they don't deserve it. Respect is a reflection of your character, not theirs. So some things to consider and really think about for your 7 things. But what else? Go back to your perfect partner. Go back to your perfect partner and really consider what your non-negotiables are. And then take your non-negotiables, figure out a single word that goes for each, and put them someplace on the house. And that's important for you to recognize, because everybody's house, like I said, is going to look similar. So I think that you all need the 7 things, but they're all going to be different. Whereas the 7 things might be for you 8 things or 9 things. Mr. Corabi, what happens if there are 10 things? Double check and make sure that the non-negotiables are really non-negotiables, but they might be 10 things. It's also likely that 1 or 2 of the words on the house, whether they're by themselves or whether they're combined, like I did with loyalty, communication, and friendship to give you empathy, or like I did with trust, honesty, and communication to give you security. It might be that your word is already there. It just has to be a combination of the other words. So maybe you can kind of stick it there. It might be that you need to build a whole nother wall. Like you need to make your house 3-dimensional and start building 2 more walls up there. This is only 2 walls, so maybe you need 2 more. So maybe that's something. And there's other things here too, like there's no door in this house. So you have to decide what your door is when you're going to let people in, so to speak. But I will say these 3 more caveats for you to understand. Number 1, where you place your words, like there's some words I didn't say and some issues I didn't say, some things that are your non-negotiables. Where you place them is super important. So like if you place them on a wall, fine. If you place them on a roof with love and respect, fine. But if you place them where the foundation is, then you need to absolutely make sure that those non-negotiables are where that foundation is and that your foundation is super strong. Number 2, I want to recognize and say to you that actually I forgot what number 2 was. Number 2, I want you to say that it is every single house, like I already said, should be from the ground up. So you build the foundation first, then the walls, then the roof. But they should also be oftentimes from the inside out. I didn't talk about what the house looks like in terms of shingles or paint or siding or anything like that. I didn't talk about that. So we're not looking at the physical parts of somebody to be able to put here. We're looking at the character. We're looking at who they are on the inside. Now, of course, there's physical attraction and there's beauty and there's what we find physically attractive, which could bring you to want to talk to somebody. Yes, that is true. That's legitimate. But in order to build an actual relationship, we shouldn't focus on what it looks like. We should focus on what it is. And last but not least, and we're really not talking about this for this video, but just putting it out there for your thinking, sex is sex. Sex is not love. And there's a difference there. So however old you are, if you're in high school or college, or if you're an adult and you happen to stumble upon this, if you're interested in sex, I'm not saying you should be being a teacher. Like, obviously, I want you to be safe and things like that with the sexual decision making. But sex and the physical acts of sex is different than love. And oftentimes people go and they confuse sex with love. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next video, having to do with the negative qualities of unhealthy relationships. But we also will mention that in the sexual health unit during second report card period, where some people confuse and get involved sexually too fast, and they confuse that with love. So if you have questions, email me. Otherwise, check out the website links on the bottom of the page and check out one of the other videos related to this video when you go and do that. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.